各位来宾，总统已经抵达会场。Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency President 赖清德。各位来宾，欢迎莅临由台湾民主基金会驻台北以色列经济文化办事处以及德国在台协会所主办的2025国际犹太大屠杀纪念会。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2025 International Holocaust Remembrance Day ceremony, organized by Taiwan Foundation for Democracy, Israel Economic and Cultural Office in Taipei, and German Institute Taipei. 2005年，联合国大会通过将1月27日，也就是奥斯威辛集中营解放的周年，定为国际犹太大屠杀纪念日，来纪念在纳粹大屠杀中罹难的600万犹太人和其他数百万的受害者。In 2005, the United Nations designated January 27th the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz concentration camp as International Holocaust Remembrance Day to honor the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and millions of other victims of Nazism. 在台湾驻台北以色列经济文化办事处以及德国在台协会也从2016年开始每年举办纪念活动，希望让台湾的社会也能够了解这段历史和人权课题。Since 2016, the Israel Economic and Cultural Office in Taipei and German Institute Taipei have co-hosted events in Taiwan each year, not only to commemorate the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, but also for the Taiwanese society to learn more about the Holocaust and its significance in the advancement of human rights. To begin with, it is our great honor today to welcome a special guest from Israel, Ms. Orly Sela. 今天纪念会一开始，我们非常荣幸能够邀请到一位来自于以色列的特别来宾 Orly Sela 女士。Orly 是犹太大屠杀幸存者的第3代后裔，多年来她肩负着一项特别而且深刻的使命，也就是以第一人称的方式来讲述她祖母的故事，成为记忆的守护者和传承者。她是记忆传承大使计划的推动者之一。透过深情的叙述，让历史得以延续，也让记忆能够持续的发生。Orly is a third-generation descendant of a Holocaust survivor. For many years, she has carried a deeply meaningful mission, that is, to tell the life story of her grandmother in the first person, becoming both a guardian and transmitter of memory. As a key contributor to the Remembrance Ambassador in First Person Initiative, she shares these stories with great empathy and conviction, ensuring that history continues to live and that memory continues to speak. Orly 从小和她的祖母 Judith Bix 共同生活，并且也陪伴祖母走过人生的最后岁月。今天 Orly 将带来祖母的故事，不只是历史的重现，更让我们思索人性如何在极端黑暗中仍发出微光。Orly grew up living with her grandmother, Judith Bix, and was by her side through her final years. Today, Orly will share her grandmother's story, and through her words, we will hear the quiet strengths of a life lived through darkness and reflect on how light can still emerge from humanity, even in the darkest of moments.
Judith, come up for dinner. The food is already ready, it's on the table. I hear my mother, Ilona, calling me from upstairs. But I just cannot disconnect from the book that I received for my bat mitzvah from my friend Maria. The year is 1935. I love reading, mainly in the basement of our house in Bekes Chaba. It's clean and full with colorful jars of jam. Judith, come now. Janos is already sitting and we are all hungry. That's my father, Leopold, and I understand that I have to come up now. My name is Judith Bix, and I was born in Bekes Chaba in January 23. We were a secular family, patriotic Hungarians. We loved Hungary. We had a lot of friends that were not Jewish, and we went to the synagogue only on high holidays like Simchat Torah and Yom Kippur. When I was 12, I celebrated my bat mitzvah with a group of friends that were only interested in what to wear. I also really like to paint my nails and put on red lipstick and wear nice dresses like every other girl you know. In the spring of 1938, all of our friends went to the high school to register for the major for high school. All my friends went one after the other. And when it was my turn, I went into the office and wanted to major the biology that I'd chosen. But the secretary told me that I cannot because of the Jewish laws that just came into effect. She said, you cannot study here anymore. You can go to a vocational school and study something else, like a professional school. So I went outside and I was in shock. My friends hugged me and said, we're sure that a solution would be found and we could all learn together. But tragically, of course, no solution was found. My father, who owned a leather goods store, suggested that I would go and study shoemaking because he owned a leather goods store, as I told you, and we thought that maybe in the future we will open a shoe part in the store. So I did that, even though I didn't really like it, but I went there. In 1944, we were all ordered to wear a yellow badge on every piece of clothing. The Hungarian authorities gave to the German lists of all the Jewish people in the city, and they ordered us to go to the ghetto. My parents were lucky to find work in a farm not so far, and we went there and worked for food. It was just labor without salary, and my parents, who were city people, were really not coping with the situation, but we tried to help them, me and my beloved brother Janos. We told them that maybe when things would calm down, we go back home and stay together and start to live like we normally lived. We started to hear rumors that they are taking the Jews from the ghetto by trains to an unknown destinations. My parents bought cyanide pills and told us, you two are young people. You'll fled Hungary. We don't want to burden you. We will take the pills and commit suicide. You cannot do that, I told them. Let's do it together. Stay as a family. We will help you. And one day, as I said, we go back home. And now, when I'm much older, I'm an old woman, I think maybe I shouldn't have convinced them. to not commit suicide because, as you'll hear later, my father almost made it to the liberation, but he perished from hunger. And my mom, my dear mom, Ilona, she was burned in Auschwitz. Eventually, we had to leave the farm and went to the train station area in Bekeshaba. We were there for 3 weeks in an overcrowded situation of Jews coming and coming and coming from all over the region. And then they started to put us on the trains, the famous cattle trains. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. I don't really remember what day they put us on the train or how many days the journey took. I do remember that we never separated, my brother, my mother, my father, and me, Judith. We were really stuck together because it was so crowded inside. No windows, as I told you, it was cattle trains. It wasn't meant for human, as the trains that you all know. No food was available. I don't remember if we ate at all. No air was available as well because the small windows up there were closed. Sometimes the train stopped, but the doors never opened. There was a bucket on the side of the carriage for defecating, but we couldn't reach it, of course, because it was so crowded inside and scary. I was about 19. Yeah, it was horrible. And finally, the train came to a stop. The doors opened. The light was so bright after this darkness inside the train. Immediately heard screams of Germans, "Schnell, schnell, get out of the train." Barks, big dogs are barking. I was looking around and saw so many people wearing rags, looking inhumane. I heard screams. I saw big chimneys spitting black smoke without stopping. I thought, did I get to hell? No, it was Auschwitz. They immediately separated us to 2 rows of men and women. My brother, Janusz, went with our father, and I went with my mother. We were walking, and at the end of the column, sat on a high chair, a German officer wearing a white robe. Later, I found out his name was Mengele. May his name and memory be erased forever. So, my mom suffered from the train ride so bad, so she broke her tooth, and she looked so much older than her real age was 48. So he gestured left to my mother and right to me. The only thing I remember is my mother begging him, "Das ist meine Tochter, this is my daughter," but he couldn't care less. And that was the last time I ever saw my mother. Luckily, I met my aunt and her daughter, and together we stayed in the camp in Auschwitz. Every day, Mengele arrived, sat on a high chair, and we had to go naked, and he chose women as he saw fit. Later, we found out about the experiments that he did in these women. He chose me more than once, but luckily, and I don't know how, instinctively, I managed to hide, and if not, I wasn't here to tell the story. I have stories about every hour in Auschwitz. After very few women were left in the camp, they took us again by trains to a labor camp in Germany, in Silesia. My cousin, my aunt, and me were sent to work in a factory for bomb parts for the Germans. They gave us rags to wear, and we put them on wooden soles just to make some shoes to keep us from the freezing cold. Here in Taiwan, you don't know what cold is because it's a tropical area, but just imagine if you've ever been in Europe, the cold in January, it was brutal. So it wasn't enough what we've got to wear. The food was one small loaf of bread, one dish of vegetable peels soup, and one mug of muddy gray water. All of this divided into 3. So we, of course, were quite hungry. So everything you could get and put your hand on, you would sell just to get through the day, to get some food. I didn't have anything to barter with, so I bartered the other way around. I didn't eat my bread. I kept it in my pocket. And every day I bought woolen threads, orange woolen thread, from a factory for parachutes. So I collected quite a lot of them and improvised knitting needles from my factory. And every night, because it wasn't allowed to do something for yourself, I knitted. I had a project of my own. And it became one row after another. It calmed me just to knit because I was so overwhelmed with the work there. So it was like a meditation to knit my project, my secret project. One row after another, and it became a sweater, a vest, that I never took it off. It was such a colorful piece in these gloomy surroundings, and it kept me warm. It was on me during the voyage to Israel, and it was on me during my pregnancy with my son Aryeh, and it was on me in my final immigration to Israel. And guess what? It's here today in Taiwan. Thank you. So that's the original sweater. As you see, it's well kept, but it's kind of lost its colors. And it's starting to, the stitches are not strong anymore, but I'm keeping it. It's here for 80 years with me, and now in Taiwan, for you to see. Yeah. The Germans started to understand that the Soviet army is approaching. So they understood also that they couldn't complete the mission of killing us all. So they stole everything they can and left. One morning we woke up to a camp. No Germans, no Nazis. We are free. The Ukrainians liberated our camp in 1945. But they also shouted at us, until now you did nothing. Go and work if you want to eat. Where can we work? Nobody got anything to give us because Europe was also in a very difficult situation. We managed to find something just to get some food stamps. And after a few weeks or a month, I don't remember, we tried and wanted to go back to Hungary. So we got some documents and begin to approach the border. I remember that we were at a big central station in Slovakia border. It was packed with Hungarian soldiers that wanted to go back home and war prisoners, but no Jews, not at all. We stood out by our appearance. We were very skinny and bald and wore rags and full of wounds. The guards in the entrance of the station would not let us in. What would I do now? I spotted some horse traders that were moving freely across Europe. So I asked them, maybe you can help me to get home. They say, oh, I remember, one of them said, I remember that I saw a soldier from Bekeshchaba from your city. Maybe you'll find him. And miraculously, as always happened to me, miracles, I found the soldier. He held two big luggage. And I asked him, maybe you can take me with you to Bekeshchaba. So he said, okay. You will take one luggage and say that you are my wife and go on the train. So I said, wow, thank you so much. Maybe when we get to Bekeshchaba, I will repay you with maybe shoes, because as you remember, I learned how to make beautiful shoes. So he said, let's do it. And the train arrived. I went on the car with a suitcase and I sat on it. It was filled and packed, and I didn't know with what, but I imagined it was food because I was so hungry. But suddenly the train started to go, and my husband wasn't there. I got panicked. What if they catch me without a ticket or documents, sitting on a luggage that is not mine? But another soldier that was on the train said that, don't worry, you'll be my wife, and we go together. So I breathed in relief. On the next station, my original husband, I saw him running and going to the car, and both of them took me under their wings, and that was the lucky thing, because this train took forever to arrive to Bekeshchaba, because it was affected by the war, so it couldn't go straight. And by nights when the train stopped, horrible things happened to the people, the women that was on the train with the drunk soldiers. I don't want to even think about it. I was protected. Finally, we arrived to Bekeshchaba. And then the soldier gone. He disappeared. And I don't know his name. But maybe if I find him someday, I'll repay him with a beautiful pair of shoes. But I was home, and I stood there, and I was afraid to approach our house because I didn't know what I would find and who I would find there. But I started going, and from the main street, people were shouting at me, "Here's another Jew returns. We thought they killed you all, but more are coming back." But I still kept going, and I found our house. It was taken by another family. And then I saw our neighbor, and she said, "Wow, you're also back." So I asked, "Why also? Who's back?" She said, "Your brother Janos was here like 2 weeks ago. Do you know where he went?" "I think he went to Romania, to your uncle." So immediately, I took a train to Romania and finally met my dear brother. I think we hugged for a whole day. He showed me the number on his hand, because I don't have a number, and told me a little bit of what he did in those years, because it was too difficult for him to share the story. He told me about our father, our dear father, that was perished from hunger, as I told you. And we decided that the only place for us to go is Israel. So we went to a place in Germany that they taught us how to work in the farms of Israel, how to cultivate the land, taught us Hebrew. And then I met my husband, Shmuel. And together we took a boat that was meant to take us to Israel. It was an illegal immigrant ship. And I fell pregnant during this voyage. But for these horrible conditions, I lost and miscarried. When we arrived to Haifa, the British soldiers were waiting for us on the dock with firearms, and told us we have to go to Cyprus, to interment camp. We were there for 1 year. I also fell pregnant there again. And luckily, I had the chance to leave this pregnancy because it was the only chance I could have a baby. And that's my son, Arya. When I was 9 months pregnant, they gave us special permission to go to Israel. And we were looking for a family, a new family, a community. So we found a village, a moshav, in the northern part of Israel called Moledet. It was a beautiful place. It is a beautiful place. And my son got married to Rina from the moshav, and they have 3 wonderful girls. And when I'm now all the time with my family and friends and community, I'm looking back and reflecting and thinking, are all those stories happened to just one woman? Thank you for listening. My name is Orly Sela, and I'm super emotional. Thank you for inviting me to Taiwan. Because my grandma Judith and I had a very big and close connection. I loved her so much. We used to dress up together. And when she was gone, I was by her side. And since then, it's 20 years or something like that. I think, how can I hold her memory? And then I discovered this organization that called First Person Remembrance Ambassadors, and I studied how to give the story, like the way you heard just now. And when I'm telling this story, and I'm telling it mainly in Hebrew, but a lot in English, I feel that she's here around me, whispering in my ear and comforting me. And I hope that for a brief moment you felt her too. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Orly for sharing with us story of her grandmother in the first person. 非常谢谢 Orly 用第一人称的方式来和我们分享她祖母的故事。接下来我们要邀请的是台北市可巴德犹太协会的拉比 Rabbi Shlomi David 来诵读祈祷文慈悲的神。这首祈祷文通常是在葬礼或纪念仪式当中来诵祷，为的是安慰已逝者的灵魂。And next, we would like to invite Rabbi of Taiwan, Rabbi Shlomi David, President of the Abad Taiwan Jewish Center, to recite a Jewish prayer, Maleh Lahamin, Merciful God. This prayer is for the soul of the deceased, usually recited at the burial or memorial services. Rabbi Dabib, please.
אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את כל הנשמות של 6 מיליוני היהודים, חללי השואה באירופה, שנהרגו, שנשחטו, שנשרפו ושנספו על קידוש השם בידי המרצחים הגרמנים הנאצים ועוזריהם משאר העמים, יימח שמם. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם, ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימין, ונאמר אמן.
Thank you, Rabbi Dabib. Please take your seat. 紧接着进行点烛仪式，来纪念纳粹德国期间遭受到屠杀的受难者。在荧幕上面也会同步说明每一支蜡烛的含义。We will now light 6 candles in memory of those who were murdered during the Holocaust. To begin with, we would like to invite Mr. Andreas Hofem, Deputy Director General of German Institute Taipei. 首先，请德国在台协会何峰副处长点亮第1根蜡烛。We light this candle in memory of the 1.5 million Jewish children and countless others who perished in the Holocaust. These innocent lives, cut tragically short, remind us of the devastating impact of hatred. May we create a world where every child can live in peace and safety. For the second candle, we would like to invite Representative Maya Yaron of the Israel Economic and Cultural Office in Taipei. 请以色列经济文化办事处尤玛雅代表点亮第2根蜡烛。We light this candle as commitment to Holocaust education and the fight against ignorance and prejudice. We bear responsibility in ensuring that future generations understand the consequences of hatred and deepen our collective humanity. 接下来，请外交部吴志中政务次长点亮第3根蜡烛。For the third candle, we would like to invite Deputy Foreign Minister, Ambassador Francois Chi-Chong-wu. We light this candle to recognize the courage and humanity of the righteous among the nations, those who risked their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust. Among them, Dr. Hofem Shen, a diplomat who helped thousands of Jews. Their moral courage and selflessness shine as a beacon of hope. 再来，请国家安全会议吴钊燮秘书长点亮第4根蜡烛。For the fourth candle, we would like to invite Secretary General of National Security Council, Dr. Zhao Xie Joseph Wu. We light this candle for our collective hope for a world free from anti-Semitism, racism, and all forms of discrimination. May it shine brightly and guide us towards peace, understanding, and mutual respect. 接下来，请台湾民主基金会韩国瑜董事长点亮第5根蜡烛。For the fifth candle, we would like to invite Chairman of Taiwan Foundation for Democracy, Mr. Daniel Han. We light this candle to honor the resilience and strengths of Holocaust survivors. Their stories are a powerful reminder of the human spirit's capacity to overcome darkness and despair, and we bear responsibility to carry their legacy to future generations. May this light symbolize hope and renewal. 最后，让我们恭请赖清德总统点亮第6根蜡烛。For the 6th candle, we would like to invite His Excellency President Lai Ching-te. We light this candle in remembrance of the 6 million Jewish lives lost during the Holocaust. May their memory be a beacon that guides us towards a world of compassion and understanding, ensuring such atrocities are never repeated. 接下来我们进行合影 We will now take a group photo. 请各位先看向中间摄影师的镜头 Please look into our photographers in the center. 接下来请看后方媒体朋友的镜头 Please look into our media cameras in the back. Thank you. Please remain on the stage. 我们接下来邀请以色列议员代表团一起上台合影。And now we would like to invite delegates from the Knesset on the stage for another group photo. Please welcome Parliamentary Advisor Adi Shohan, MK Yoav Sakalovitz, MK Marav Ben Ari, MK Boaz Toporowski, MK Ron Ben Barak, and Secretary General of Hanua Party, Mr. Yoel Hassan. Once again, please look into our photographers in the center together. And now please look into the media camera in the back. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. 谢谢各位长官的配合，请大家回座。刚才以色列、德国和台湾的代表们为我们点亮了6根蜡烛，一方面是纪念第2次世界大战期间遭受到屠杀的600万犹太人，另一方面也向幸存者和受难者的家人致意。The 6 candles lit by representatives from Israel, Germany, and Taiwan are not only to honor the 6 million Jews who were murdered during the World War II, but also to pay respect to the survivors and families of the Holocaust victims. 接下来，让我们邀请台湾民主基金会韩国瑜董事长上台致辞。And now we would like to invite Mr. Daniel Han, Chairman of Taiwan Foundation for Democracy, to give us some remarks.
赖总统、吴秘书长、吴次长，以及以色列代表的我们玛雅处长，还有各位以色列国会议员以及德国和副代表，各位今天现场所有幕后工作的伙伴，各位各地来的贵宾，各位新闻界的好朋友。刚才听到以色列这位朋友阐述他自己 grandma 的故事，我突然觉得喉咙好紧的感觉，心里面听得非常的难过。为了纪念在纳粹大屠杀之中罹难的600万犹太人以及数百万的受害者，联合国大会在2005年11月1日通过，将每一年的1月27号定为国际犹太大屠杀纪念日。自2016年开始，驻台北的以色列经济文化代表处以及德国在台协会，每一年都举办这种纪念活动，希望让台湾社会能够了解大屠杀的历史，以及更重要的人权课题。每一年共同办理这样的一个重要的纪念活动，希望也让台湾民众能够了解这段历史，避免再度发生同样的悲剧。今年是2次世界大战结束80周年，联合国秘书长古特雷斯先生在1月27号联合国纪念大会国际犹太人大屠杀之中强调，纪念大屠杀是必要性，是为了确保 这场悲剧的教训永远不会遗忘，永远不会再发生。今天我们透过国际幸存者的后代在这里提供了第一手的证词，犹太教的拉比以及诵念着祈祷文以及点蜡烛的仪式，一起来悼念在二战期间大屠杀的犹太民族受难者。作为一个文明的社会，政治可以有对立，立场可以不同，但我们对历史、对人权都应该展现基本的尊重。在缅怀受难受害者的同时，包括领导者与每一位公民朋友，我们都有责任，必须倾听以及了解幸存者及受害者的心声，采取行动，避免危害人类人性的可怕罪行再次发生。台湾民主基金会成立以来，我们所信奉的核心价值以及理念，是为民主及人权是民主国家共同的语言，更是全球民主同盟共同坚守的普世价值。透过今天的这样的一个纪念活动，我们希望能够让台湾的民众更深刻地了解这段历史，同时也能学习以色列与德国如何能够面对历史的悲剧，又能够再一次共同的携手努力，避免同样的悲剧再次发生。最后要再一次感谢远道而来的以色列的国会议员，还有很多幕后工作的伙伴们，希望世界能够永保和平，祝福大家。
谢谢董事长，请董事长回座。再来，让我们邀请德国在台协会何峰副处长上台致辞。And next, we would like to invite Mr. Andreas Hofem, Deputy Director General of German Institute Taipei, to give us some remarks.
Dear Maya, President Lai, Secretary General Wu, Deputy Minister Wu, Chairman Han, distinguished guests from Israel, members of the Knesset, Selah, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me the honor to speak on behalf of the German Institute and also to represent Germany today. My birthday is the 27th of January. I was born many years after the end of the Second World War. And on January 27th, as we heard many times, 1945, the concentration camp of Auschwitz was liberated. Today, the 27th of January, marks the International Day of Holocaust Remembrance, and it's a day of commemoration, of remembrance, but also of shame. I was born in Germany to German parents, themselves part of the first generation born after the war and the Holocaust. My grandparents lived through these dark times. In our families, too, not everyone stood by as idle witnesses. Some supported the inhuman policies and actions, others fought as soldiers, and there were even members of the National Socialist Party. Therefore, as a German born years after the end of the Nazi tyranny, I feel shame and a responsibility to remember the Holocaust, this darkest chapter of human history, a chapter that we Germans have written with the blood and the tears of the victims. My generation is not guilty, yet as Germans, I think we must accept this shame and responsibility. This year, we mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Nazi regime, the Second World War, and the Holocaust. At places like Auschwitz or Dachau or Buchenwald, survivors, officials, religious leaders, and citizens gather once more, as we have gathered here today. They gather to remember the unthinkable suffering of the victims and to recommit to the values that made peace, dignity, and democracy possible, and to renew a solemn vow: what happened then must never happen again. In Germany, the culture of remembrance has become a cornerstone of our democracy. It teaches us that freedom is fragile and that the seeds of hatred and indifference must never be allowed to take root again. But Germany's journey of remembrance is neither perfect nor can it ever be completed. And we must never feel too confident. Memory, too, can be very fragile. According to a recent survey, over 50% of Germans believe it's time to draw a line under the Nazi past. And these are not just numbers, these are signs of erosion of empathy, of awareness, of historical responsibility, and of the core of our democracy and humanity. Across Germany and Europe, we are witnessing dangerous attempts to rewrite history, to minimize crimes, and to discredit places of memory. In Buchenwald and other memorials, right-wing extremists have sought to distort what these sites stand for, even in the last years. The Italian writer Primo Levi, in his work, describes the mechanism of denial by quoting a German SS soldier speaking to a Jewish prisoner. However this war may end, we have won the war against you. None of you will be left to bear witness. But even if some of you survive, the world would not believe you. That is why, as Germans, irrespective of our age, as the children and grandchildren of the generation of perpetrators, we must be clear. Forgetting about history is not an option. Distortion of history is not freedom of opinion. And silence is never neutral. It is essential that we continue along the path of remembrance, and we are not alone on this path. Taiwan and Israel both know the power and the pain of history and remembrance. In Israel, the memory of the Shoah, as I understand it, is not only about mourning, it's also about justice, and it's about resilience. In Taiwan, we see an increasingly open engagement with difficult chapters of Taiwan's past, a courageous and necessary step for every democracy. I'm very grateful to our friends from Taiwan for making this event today possible once more. Your engagement and presence honor the universal importance of memory and human dignity. To our Israeli guests, to the survivors, children and grandchildren, your story reminds us that remembrance must never be a burden, it's a moral duty. It's a responsibility that we, as younger generations of Germans, have inherited and that we will honor. Events of remembrance as the one today are not only essential to preserve the memory of what was, but also to renew the pledge of never again. The German writer Erich Kästner put it this way: the events from 1933 to 1945 should have been fought in 1928 at the latest. Later, it was too late. One must not wait until the snowball has become an avalanche. One must crush the rolling snowball. So, let us all be vigilant as we stand together today. Let us protect the truth against denial and distortion, protect dignity against hate, protect memory against forgetting and erasure, not solely out of guilt and shame, but out of responsibility. Let us make sure that what was shall never be again.
Thank you very much to Mr. Hofem. Thank you. Please take your seat. 接下来，让我们邀请驻台北以色列经济文化办事处尤玛雅代表上台致辞。And next, we would like to invite Representative Maya Yaron of Israel Economic and Cultural Office in Taipei to give us some remarks.
His Excellency President Lai, Chairman of the Taiwan Foundation of Democracy and Speaker of the Legislative Yuan, Mr. Han, Secretary General of the National Security Council, Dr. Wu, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Wu, President of Taiwan Foundation for Democracy, Dr. Liao, Deputy Director General of the German Institute, Taipei, Mr. Hofem, honored members of the Israeli Knesset, distinguished representatives, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today to mark International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We're standing here today thousands of miles away from Europe, and where World War II happened 80 years ago with the Holocaust. Yet we stand here together, bound by our shared commitment to education, tolerance, and the pursuit of coexistence within our democratic societies. Today we remember the 6 million Jewish men, women, and children whose lives were stolen by hatred. We remember the families torn apart, the communities destroyed, and the Jewish civilization that was nearly erased. The Holocaust was not only an attack on the Jewish people. It was an assault on humanity itself. It's a grim warning that is relevant also today, also here in Asia, of what happens when hatred is allowed to fester unchecked. For our speaker, Orly, for me personally, for many Israeli families and people, the Holocaust is not just history, it is personal. My own family carries its scars, and its echoes live in my family from generation to generation. Stories of loved ones lost, of a world that looked away when it mattered most. These stories deserve to be remembered and told, and they serve us as a reminder that the lessons of the past are never truly behind us. Thank you, Orly, for sharing your grandmother's story with us. During the past years, we have dedicated much time and effort here in Taiwan to promote Holocaust history and education. Unfortunately, many are not yet familiar with the important lessons of the Holocaust and the current day's rise in discrimination against Jewish people. The Holocaust is seen as a European tragedy, far away and disconnected from Asia's experience. Yet, the atrocities of October 7 were not just an attack on Israel. Again, once again, they were an attack on the shared values of humanity. The images and testimonies that emerged from that day, the systematic targeting of civilians, the deliberate cruelty, brought back memories of the darkest chapters of Jewish history. But there is a difference now. Today, Israel stands strong. Jews have an army that defends our people, a society that is refusing to be broken, and a global community, including here in Taiwan, of friends that continue to stand with us. We will never again be defenseless, and we will never again allow history to repeat. Taiwan, too, has known oppression, struggle, and the fight for dignity. The lessons of the Holocaust are universal, and they're relevant also to Taiwanese people. They teach us the dangers of silence, the consequences of hatred, and the necessity of vigilance. This is why the work of the Taiwan Foundation for Democracy and events like this one today matter so deeply. They ensure the memory is not just preserved, but shared. That history is not just remembered, but learned from. This year, Israel assumed the presidency of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, a global organization dedicated to preserving the memory of the Holocaust and combating anti-Semitism. In this leadership role, we call on global partners to pledge to educate, to ensure that the memory of the Holocaust is passed on, not just as history, but as a warning and a moral obligation, to pledge to confront hate, to build bridges instead of walls, to foster understanding instead of division, and to create a future where these atrocities will never happen again. I look forward to Taiwan's government, parliament, organizations, and universities to actively join the universal pledge of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. As long as we carry the lessons of the past with us, as long as we stand together in defiance of hatred and racism, we create together a better future and a better hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Representative Yaron. 如同有代表所分享的，今天这样的纪念会活动重要而且意义深远，让大屠杀历史的记忆得以保存和分享。也希望透过纪念活动，让更多人能够感受到这段历史的真实重量，并且在我们心中种下更深的理解和尊重。接下来，让我们恭请赖清德总统上台致辞。And now, please welcome His Excellency President 赖清德。
Member of the Israeli Knesset and Taiwan Friendship Group, Chair Boaz Toporovsky, Israel Economic and Cultural Office in Taipei, Representative Maya Yaron, German Institute Taipei, Deputy Director General Andreas Hofem, Taiwan Foundation for Democracy, Chair韩国瑜, National Security Council Secretary General Wu Zhaoxie, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Wu Zhenzong, Mrs. Oli Sarah, granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, Mrs. Jehudit Biggs, distinguished guests, good afternoon. To begin, I want to thank the Israel Economic and Cultural Office in Taipei, German Institute Taipei, Taiwan Foundation for Democracy, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs for co-organizing this deeply significant memorial ceremony again this year. I also want to thank everyone for attending. We are here today to remember the victims of the Holocaust, express sympathy for the survivors, honor the brave individuals who protected the victims, and acknowledge all who were impacted by this atrocity. It was deeply moving to hear Mrs. Sarah share the story of how her grandmother, Jehudit Biggs, escaped the Nazi regime. I want to thank her especially for traveling so far to attend this event. From the 1930s through World War II, the Nazi regime sought to exclude Jewish people from society. In their campaign, they perpetrated systemic genocide driven by their ideology. Policies and directives under the authoritarian Nazi regime resulted in the deaths of approximately 6 million Jews. Millions of others were persecuted, including Romanian people, persons with disabilities, the gay community, and anyone who disagreed with Nazi ideology. It is one of the darkest chapters in human history. Many countries, including Taiwan, have enacted anti-massacre legislation and observe a Remembrance Day each year. Those occasions help us remember the victims, preserve historic memory, and most importantly, reinforce our resolve to fight against hatred and discrimination. 23 years ago, Xiaologin Church in Tainan founded the Taiwan Holocaust Memorial Museum. It is the first Jewish museum in Taiwan and the second Holocaust museum in Asia. Its founding mission urged us to forget hatred and love one another, put an end to war, and advocate peace. Many of the many of the exhibition items come from Jewish people, connecting Taiwan closer with Israel and helping Taiwanese better understand the experiences of Jewish people. In this way, we grow to more deeply cherish peace. When I was mayor of Tainan, I took part in an exhibition event at Chalokin Church. I was also invited by the Israeli government to join the International Mayors Conference in Israel, where I visited the World Holocaust Remembrance Center. I will never forget how deeply that experiences moved me. And as a result, peace and human rights became even more important issues for me. These issues are valued by Taiwan and our friends and allies. They are also important links connecting Taiwan with the world. Peace is priceless, and war has no winners. We will continue to expand cooperation with democratic partners and safeguard regional and global peace and stability. We will also continue to make greater contributions and work with the international community to defend democracy, freedom, and human rights. This year also marks the 88th anniversary of the end of World War II. However, we still see wars raging around the world. We see a resurgence of authoritarian powers, which could severely impact global democracy, peace, and prosperous development. Today's event allows for more than reflection of the past. It also serves as a warning for the future. We are reminded of the threats that hatred, prejudice, and extremism pose to humanity. But we are also reminded that morality, democracy, and respect for human rights are powerful forces against violence and tyranny. We must never forget history. We must overcome our differences and join in solidarity for a better future. Let's work together to ensure that the next generations live in a world that is more just and more peaceful. Thank you.
Thank you very much to President Lai. 谢谢总统，非常感谢总统莅临今天的纪念会，让我们恭送总统离场。Ladies and gentlemen, let us once again thank President Lai for attending the event today. 各位来宾，我们今天聚集在一起，不只是纪念犹太大屠杀的历史，同时也期许大家持续的努力，为我们的后代建立一个更自由、更有包容力的社会。Ladies and gentlemen, we gather here today not only to remember the historical meaning of the Holocaust, but also to remind us to continue striving to build a more tolerant and free society for our future generations. 今天我们的纪念会活动到这边圆满的告一个段落，非常感谢大家的参与。Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the event today. Thank you very much for joining us. 再一次谢谢各位今天的莅临。离场的时候也请记得您随身携带的物品。祝福各位健康、平安、顺心。Thank you once again for joining us today. Please don't forget your personal belongings as you leave. Thank you and good day.